So welcome everyone to all who just joined us for this new Virtual Innovation Center. As a very quick way of introduction, my name is Aline. I'm from One Nucleus, and I am hosting these sessions in the context of the Virtual Innovation Center that One Nucleus developed a few months ago. So briefly, context is to really support companies in their growing phases. So whether they're becoming more active deal maker, they're looking at the next strategic development phase, or very importantly, looking at operational development. And growth and operational development often means finding new lab facility or growing lab facility, and obviously recruiting the related staff to that. So I'm really happy today to have this great workshop with lots of insights on what to consider when growing a lab facility, from the lab space to the facility itself, but then also to the whole equipment and consumable side of it, and also including managing better workflows and the lab of the future and how to bring in more intelligence into that. So when we run these sessions, we run them in collaboration with our partners, and I'm delighted today to have such a great team from Thermo Fisher, corporate sponsor of One Nucleus, will give you such great insight. We want this session to be as interactive as possible, so there will be some questions on the way for you to answer, just for them to understand a bit better what are your needs, but also you will be able to ask them questions directly within this workshop, and I will encourage you to prompt them in the chat box anytime, and I will pass them to the presenter, or if you want to follow up with them later, that's absolutely fine too. I am sure they will be happy to share their details. So without further ado, I am leaving the floor to Ashley Box, who will give you an introduction of Thermo Fisher, and then we'll introduce his colleagues to run through the workshop. Thank you, Ashley.
Thanks, Aileen. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for the lovely introduction there, and for Aileen giving us the overview of the session that we've got planned for you today. So welcome to this One Nucleus Virtual Innovation Centre workshop on growing lab capacity. It's great to see some familiar names in the chat box there, but also some new ones too. For those of you not familiar with me, my name's Ashley Box, and I'm part of Thermo Fisher Scientific's global corporate biotech team. I have specific responsibilities supporting our UK biotech customers and the supporting ecosystem. My role in business development is really to represent the entire portfolio of capabilities across our organisation. So I serve as incremental or additive to the local representatives that you're probably already familiar with. So I support across the segment to help deliver our company value proposition. And essentially, I can provide a single point of contact should you need it to help customers access our portfolio and coordinate support from across the company. Sorry, just waiting for the screen to move on to the. Sorry, I've got on one too many there, too many clicks, getting carried away. So hopefully many of you will know Thermo Fisher in some capacity, but I'd like to start today with a brief introduction to the company. So this slide, I hope, gives you a sense of the scope of our company. Our mission, and one we're incredibly proud of, is to enable our customers to make the world a healthier, cleaner and safer place. And this is similar to and aligns very well with the missions and visions of many of our biotech and pharmaceutical customers who are striving to improve health outcomes also. So essentially, we're all working towards the same objectives. As you can see from the 4 blocks across the lower part of the screen there, collectively, we're about 80,000 employees, all committed to serving science and technology. We employ over 5,700 scientists and R&D engineers, and we turned over we invested approximately over 1 billion in R&D last year. And that was to help develop and innovate new technologies, bring new products and services to support the life sciences and healthcare. We add value by helping our customers accelerate innovation and enhance productivity underpinned by quality. With revenue exceeding 30 billion in 2020, we're a large organisation. That is not meant to be bragging rights. It's really to reassure you that as a large organisation with a solid foundation, I hope provides you with the confidence that we're here for the long term. If your project's important to you, it's important to us too. And you need to know that you're entrusting it with a partner that's financially stable and able to deliver on its commitments. So I often, oh, here we go again. It seems to move on 2 slides when I click one. So I often say that everyone knows Thermo Fisher Scientific for something, but very few people know us for everything. So this is how we come to market as one company, utilizing the 6 premier brands shown across the screen. We've built a deep portfolio of leading brands that are all devoted to serving science. So starting on the left, we have Thermo Scientific, which is our brand associated with instruments, equipment, software, services, and consumables, which all help to empower scientists to solve complex analytical challenges. Next to that is Applied Biosystems, which is a brand which encompasses integrated systems for genetic analysis, which have been built to take on every genetic sciences questions, whether that's PCR, genetic sequencing platforms, next generation sequencing, etc. You then have Invitrogen, well-known brand, products and services, critical tools enabling life science researchers in cell biology, molecular biology, protein and cell analysis, sample preparation, and areas like that. The next brand is Fisher Scientific, which again, I'm sure many of you are familiar with. It's our premier laboratory distribution channel, providing choice and convenience to thousands and access to thousands of suppliers and millions of products worldwide. So essentially a one-stop shop experience with their industry-leading scale and depth. They also provide tailored logistics solutions, state-of-the-art inventory management strategies, and can help our customers work more efficiently. You also then have Unity Lab Services, which really takes care of everything post-sales servicing, asset and inventory management, and outsourcing of non-core laboratory management functions. And finally, we have Patheon, which provides end-to-end pharma service solutions for every drug development journey, providing industry-leading CDMO services as well as clinical trial solutions. So with more than 55 locations around the world, they provide an end-to-end drug development offering from API, biologics, plasmids, viral vectors, early and late phase development, clinical trial solutions, logistics services, and commercial manufacturing. So a lot of products and services there, as you can see from across the 6 brands. So when you put all those brands and products together, this is one way how we display our end-to-end capabilities onto one slide. And I apologize, it's a very busy slide and it's really difficult to do it justice with over 1 million products and services available from Thermo Fisher across what we like to call our molecule to medicine journey. So on the left of the illustration, you see their discovery research. And here you'll find many of the products that we manufacture being utilized in the early stages of molecule identification and detection. Once that molecule's been discovered, it really then starts its process on its journey, and development and optimization really is the next stage. And then we provide all the tools, the analytical development and QC, whether it's bioreactors, also fermenters, single buffers, single-use technologies to help you scale that molecule to the next level and take it through its journey from preclinical onto the various phases of clinical trials and production. Also, formulation, analytical process development services are provided from clinical right through to commercial manufacturing, along with clinical labeling, packing, and transport to the clinics. So this capability that you see there on the slide from end to end this workflow is unique and presents customers the opportunity to work with us either in individual areas or to complement their existing processes, or to collaborate across the entire pathway, providing a fully integrated service offering or one-stop shop from our customers from R&D right through to commercial production. So that was a brief introduction to the company, but moving on and your involvement today, based on our previous discussions with One Nucleus and what we've heard and learned today about the Virtual Innovation Centre, we believe most of you can be described as falling into one of the following areas. So you're either preparing for scaling up your lab now or in the near future. Most of your team members are scientists and have a lean or no dedicated operational team. You may be in a process of further fundraising and want to ensure investors that you have a concrete R&D scale-up plan in place. So at the top of this slide, you'll see several interesting statistics about the global biotech lab market and its trends. It's clear that this is and will continue to be a high growth market We see in the press regularly all the investments and the growth going on in this area. And we hope by working collaboratively together, we can share our experiences, knowledge and capabilities, which we hope will assist you with your plans. I'd like to quickly go to our first poll of the day, please. Aileen mentioned it sort of being an interactive session. So if we can go to our first question, please, and ask you just to answer the poll that's coming up on the screen now, I hope. And there we go. So the question is, do you have a timeline to move out of an incubator and set up your lab? And if you're not in an incubator today, it may be to just set up and expand, your current facility or move into another facility. We can sort of just take 10 seconds to answer those questions. So question 1, yes, in less than 6 months. 2, yes, in less than a year. 3, yes, in more than a year. 4, no, I've already moved out. And 5, no, I'm still figuring that out. Excellent. So some very interesting questions there. Thank you. Very interesting answers, I have to say. Thank you very much for doing that. I'll just give it 3, 2, 1. I think that's probably everybody for now. Okay, thank you. So, we've not created and operated a startup, but we've worked obviously with many over the years, and we've witnessed best practices in operating an R&D company and many of the pitfalls that you want to avoid. So we hope today's workshop will guide you through some of the essential questions that you'd have to answer before you design your own lab. We hope going through this experience will mature your thinking in how to scale your capacity with support for budgeting for the next chapter in your startup journey. So what needs to be considered in a new lab? Well, clearly there's a lot to think about when starting up a new lab, not only to design, build and operate the lab, but also to prepare for future scale up and ensure that early decisions support that path. Startup could be several things, from the first part of your early discovery and research. This could mean startup of the company itself or of a new project as you grow your business. In either case, a standardized approach facilitates the design and outfitting of the labs with the proper technologies to enable workflows, including instruments and equipment, consumables, software and services. We know that you're going to be faced with key make or buy decisions about whether to do certain activities in-house or to outsource these services. We'll also explore this in greater detail in designing and building the lab as illustrated on the first block there on the left. Once the company or project is up and running, focus must shift to operational alignment and efficiency to help achieve the objectives in a timely and cost-effective way. Leveraging the scale of comprehensive workflow solutions and the advantages of e-procurement systems and inventory management will be our second session there. And finally, our third session will look at digital technologies like AI, data science, cloud networking, lab automation, and how to make all of this possible. We'll ensure we leave adequate time for questions after each presentation, so please do get your questions ready. So with that, I'd now like to hand over to Philippa Swindon to lead you through the first part of designing and building the laboratory. Over to you, Philippa.
Yes, many thanks, Ashley. So thanks, everyone. I'm Philippa Swindon. I'm the Senior District Manager for the UK Biotechs and Pharma. And first of all, I'd just like to do a quick poll to find out a little bit more about the audience. So Jenny, would you be so kind as to start the poll? So what capabilities will you need to add or scale up soon? So select as many that apply to you all, and we'll review at the end. Okay, so high throughput screening, bit of everything. Okay, adding more analytical capabilities, scaling. So hopefully we're going to cover a bit of each of those throughout the presentation. So that's good to see. So thank you everyone for those results. Okay. I'm having the problem now when the slides aren't moving on. Okay. Oh, there you go. The same problem as Ashley. Right. Okay. So, so choosing what to buy for your lab can sometimes feel a little bit overwhelming. There's so much choice on the market. So in no particular order of importance, we've put together a few that we feel are important and that we feel are key to consider just to get you off on the right foot. So the first one, sustainability and looking after the environment, is a topic we get asked a lot about. More and more customers now have your own internal key performance goals on monitoring what you need to be doing internally to try and reduce your carbon footprint or reduce the amount of plastic you're generating. So what we thought was, when it comes to looking for equipment that you would need for your lab, is to always look for those low energy efficiency ratings. And when it comes to consumables, really look for products that have minimal waste in the packaging. Thermo, for instance, they've actually labelled all our environmentally friendly products on our website with this green leaf icon that you see on the screen. And other suppliers may have done the same thing just to help guide your choices. Some suppliers have also gone so far as to look at how their products are shipped into the market in an attempt to move away from those EPS coolers. And also try to ship as much as possible ambiently, just to avoid shipping anything on dry ice. So sustainability is now considered by a lot of the large manufacturers when they're considering their best-selling products. So for instance, what Thermo have done is we've looked at our basal media solutions, and we now offer bench stable solutions. So if space is at a premium in your -20s, then you could look at maybe a bench stable option, which will obviously alleviate some of that space. So while we're on the subject of storage, in order to future-proof yourself, you may like to also consider what the sample volume size you're likely to be working with. This will obviously give you an indication of really how many -20s you may need to accommodate in your lab. If budget is lean in the early days, then consider looking at equipment that is modular. Depending on the lab's application, most equipment nowadays can be bought in stages so that you don't have all that initial outlay up front. And if space really is at a premium, consider prioritizing a footprint when making your decisions. For example, when it comes to PCR machines, many nowadays you can just buy the base unit and have interchangeable blocks. That will obviously mean that you're not buying lots of different individual units and having to daisy chain them together, which will obviously take up a lot more space. So one thing you also want to do is, when you move into a new space, is consider getting a site survey done so that you understand the bench height, where your power and LAN connection points are, what the accessibility is like into that space through lifts, stairs and doorways, for instance. And fourth bullet point, online security. It's something that we hear a lot about these days in our personal lives, but in the lab is no different. So if you are going to be moving into a shared space, consider the actual security of that equipment. If it is going to be communal, you might want to protect a particular protocol, prevent it from getting overridden or deleted completely. So where appropriate, most equipment should have this capability, but it's always worth asking the supplier that you're looking for if they do have the capability to obviously protect your protocols and the equipment. When it comes to consumables, innovation really is the key, and the products that you choose should obviously help you fix, accomplish or avoid something. So this is why we see so many of our customers really take the time to thoroughly evaluate a particular product before they go ahead and proceed. One question we tend to get asked a lot from biotechs is, how quickly will the product get me to my end goal? And is there a particular step that your product will help speed me up or make the whole step redundant completely? So if time is of the essence, then there are options available. Some might be slightly more costly than others, but definitely worth weighing up to see if it obviously will benefit you to your ultimate objective. You may also, just on the final point there, you may have researchers join your team that it's their first lab job, or it's the first time that they're dealing with a particular technology or brand of instrumentation in your lab. So whatever your team's experience, the technology you choose will always work best if it's intuitive and caters for anyone with any depth of experience. So to facilitate this, you might like to consider a sole supply for your instrumentation needs, one that may use the same interface or software across their platforms. So let's move now to looking at what is some of the typical equipment and design layout of labs. So here on this slide, you'll see everything from consumables right through to small benchtop equipment and larger capital equipment that you'll typically need in the lab. Please allow us to help you with any specifications here that you might need. We're available to ask for if you have any advice that you need. This is just a small snapshot of what we have available. So hopefully some of this looks vaguely familiar to some of you on the call today. We also have a dedicated labs construction support team that have access to this great 3D tool that helps you map out your lab, what the dimensions are in your lab, what equipment you're looking to put into your lab, just to help alleviate that transition into your own space. So this slide gives you a few just snapshot illustrations of what you can expect to see from the tool, but we're happy to work with you if you're moving into a new space and really just need to be able to visualize what that space is going to do for you and how to get the most from it. So now we've looked at what factors should be considered when making purchases. How do you choose from all the suppliers out there? I mean, naturally, you might want to choose a supplier that you've gone with in the past, that you've had a good experience with, and you feel familiar with. However, there are some other considerations you might like to bear in mind. So there are suppliers out there that do offer new and used equipment. So if budgets are tight, you might like to consider what we call ex-demo or refurbished equipment. Should you go this route though, you may need to be a little bit more flexible with your expectations. Perhaps the exact specification you require might not be available, or you're looking at last year's model rather than the latest evolved model that has just been launched. Also, if you go this route with ex-demo or refurbished, consider the full cost of ownership. You know, the initial outlay of the instrument may be less than of a new instrument, but to maintain over the years, any service costs may override any savings that you make at the beginning. So there could be an element of obviously compromise if you go this route, and you might like to consider what your priority is. Is it price or is it having the latest technology? So if you're really not sure on what you need and find the amount of choice a little bit daunting, sometimes to ask for a demo is the best route to go. Be prepared to answer a few questions from the supplier on this. They just need to make sure that they get the exact model to meet your needs and understand perfectly what it is you're trying to achieve. Also, please do bear in mind that sometimes a demo unit may not be immediately available. So the sooner you can anticipate needing to go this route, the more likely the supplier will be able to meet your needs. So the fourth point, financing options. So does your supplier of choice offer flexible financing options that cater to your timelines and budget? You may be in urgent need of a capital piece of equipment, but don't have the initial funds ready to go. So looking at leasing equipment might be a viable solution. You could be in a situation where also you've chosen your ideal piece of equipment, but then 18 months time, a new version is launched or your needs change. So having a supplier that can move nimbly with your goals and the moving goalposts and provide trade-ins or trade-ups is worth considering prior to investing in that large piece of equipment. One point you may like to negotiate up front when investing in equipment is the service packaging you'll need. So some suppliers may do package deals where you have one price for the instrument, the servicing, and the initial reagent costs you'll need to get you up and running. So this will help to keep things simple and mean that you can start using your equipment in confidence from day one. And finally, when it comes to running costs of the lab, reagents and general consumables are certainly worth getting right from the beginning, just to minimize downtime of testing reagents further down the line. So we do offer at Thermo Fisher a couple of new lab startup options and schemes to help you get up and running. And these are either discount models or special voucher schemes that I'll talk a little bit more on a future slide. And that slide is right here now, hopefully on your screen. So on the left, you'll see the Thermo Fisher scheme. This is called Jumpstart. This is specifically for new lab startups, and it covers the wide range of life science research consumables. And on the right-hand side, you've got the Fisher Scientific New Lab Startup Scheme. So Fisher Scientific being the distribution side of the company. And their scheme differs slightly to the discount model from Jumpstart. Fisher Scientific offer a voucher scheme, which basically means when you pass certain spend thresholds, you get sent vouchers for Fisher brand products. There's also a nice checklist on the Fisher website as well for new lab equipment that's a little bit more detailed than my previous slide, which some of you might find useful. Okay, so let's start now and do a deeper dive into instrument servicing and maintenance. And again, we put some considerations on the screen here that you'll see. So the first bullet is really all about opting for a company that can offer extended warranties and a variety of service and maintenance plans. So we're flexible and able to adapt for whatever you need and your instrumentation needs are. The second bullet is really about you having the reassurance by choosing a supplier that has a large service network that can be nimble and respond quickly should your instrument need urgent attention. For instance, Thermo Fisher has more than 1,000 manufacturer trained and certified professionals out there ready to assist you when and if you need them. So third bullet point there, just always important to clarify your chosen service provider will repair your instrument with original manufactured spare parts, and also has the ability to diagnose a resolution remotely, just in case you have a problem that needs the most urgent attention. If you do need to send your instrument away for service, always worth asking your service provider, maybe up front, if they will send you a loan instrument, again, just to minimize the downtime in your pipeline. So fourth point there, just to having an idea on the breadth of the local technical support coverage, it could be an indication of the response times, again, should you need an urgent solution to a critical problem. All of these points are really just to help you think about how do you minimize that downtime if your instrument needs to be repaired. So finally here, choosing a supplier as well that is reputable and well known for their after-sales support. One who has a team that offers instrument installation where required face-to-face if you need it when you're up and running. And also maybe a provider that offers support to come and train you on your new piece of equipment, so that then you have a dedicated person who's trained on that piece of equipment and then can go on to train other members of your team. After you've invested in your instrumentation, you may like to think about sort of user groups, or you may like to hear from other people around the globe that have invested in the same equipment as you to share ideas. At Thermo, we have special user group meetings where we try and connect people together so they can share ideas and talk about what they're using the instrumentation for, to really fertilize those ideas. And yes, and we like to be able to facilitate that for you. So in summary then, when it comes to instrumentation service and post-sale support, Thermo Fisher do provide a complete portfolio of services and support solutions that are really just designed to increase your productivity, reduce total cost of ownership, and ensure that performance throughout your laboratory maintains at a good level. So some take-home messages would be that if your instrumentation is going to be running 24/7, a deeper level of service may be required. And you may also like to consider preventative maintenance as well. If budget is lean, maybe just consider those pieces of instrumentation in your lab that are going to be used more thoroughly and carry more burden than the others. You may like to just have a different level of service on those than have a blanket level of service for every single piece of equipment in your laboratory. For those instruments that are taking a high burden, that are used 24/7, you may like to have them regularly calibrated as preventative maintenance. This will just obviously ensure that they're always running over, and again, there's no downtime in a critical pipeline for you. So as I said in an earlier slide, choose a supplier that can offer warranty service at the point of instrumentation purchase. It's usually more economical that way. Most suppliers will have various plans for you to peruse. So again, take their time and opt for one that's right for you, the current needs of your lab and the foreseeable needs of your lab. And like I've said before as well, choose a supplier that has genuine manufactured spare parts. That will ensure that when you send your instrumentation away for service, you always have that reassurance that you're going to receive it back in the same condition as the day one that you purchased it. Okay, so thank you. That's me. Are there any questions from the audience? Deathly silence. I don't bite.
No. Thank you, Philip. No, that's fine. I actually have one that may warm up for others. So how can we ensure delivery of critical stock for development or manufacturing is not disrupted?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, just to some of the biotechs, well, all of the biotechs, in fact, will have critical pipelines. You're trying to do something with a time frame, and we as suppliers always want to be able to supply you as soon as we possibly can with the goods that you need. So what we would urge our customers, if there are products that are critical to your pipeline, is to either set them up on reserve with us. So that means that you tell us how much you use of that particular item on a monthly basis, and we reserve that stock for you. Or you could look at things like standing orders, so you get a certain amount of stock delivered at the same time every month as well. So you just have some reassurances there. Those are the two key things we would recommend. Eileen, thank you for the question. Okay.
So that's really good service. Can I have maybe just a quick one before we move on? So this was more well, security and making sure you store the critical equipment and supply. But the other question I had prompted it was, how can we ensure our business is scalable? So I guess it's having some pointers of what a smaller company needs to be mindful of to make sure they are future-proofed and scalable for us in future.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we touched upon it in one of my slides there, but it's just to bear in mind that when you have the budget and you're ready to purchase a piece of equipment, is to really think about, is that piece of equipment going to see you through for 2-3 years time in future, and to really look at, you know, the piece of equipment that you have, is it scalable? Is it modular? Are there things that you can add to it, or can you adapt to it and bolt other parts on as time or more money becomes available? So some platforms, for instance, will allow you to adopt higher throughput versions when they become available. So I think it is really trying to think about what you're likely to need in the future as well. I know that's not always feasible, but certainly when it comes to choosing equipment, do ask the supplier, you know, is this piece of equipment that I'm looking to purchase going to see me through, you know, if my needs increase, if my sample volume changes, if my throughput increases, and just to bear your choices in mind, depending on what answers that supplier gives.
Thanks. So no false economies of trying to do something simple, but maybe that will be obsolete in the future.
Exactly. I mean, it can cost more money and time down the line if you do try to save money or cut corners early on and buy something that's maybe a great price, but it only does what you need right here and now. Because then if you do actually in a situation where you do need to scale up in 18 months, 2 years time, that piece of equipment may then become redundant completely and you need to shift to a different technology. So it's always worth asking the question. Sometimes it may not be available, but absolutely it's totally valid to ask the question up front. That's great. Any other questions, or am I at time? I'm probably at time now, aren't I? So what I'll do now is I'll move to my colleague Chet.